Everybody doesn't win. And the sooner you wake up to that biology is ruthless, man, then you get a little fear in you. And when you get a little fear in you, you start listening.
In October of 2025, one of the most famous people in YouTube history, Tai Lopez, his channel with just under 2.5 million subscribers, disappeared off the face of the earth. And he's also being investigated by the authorities. But this is no ordinary story of a YouTube quote-unquote scammer, as people would like to call. He hasn't just sold a lot of programs. Some of the most recent accusations are pretty successful people that are considered victims. Jared Goetz has an estimated net worth of $7 million.
I mean, the deal was great. It was, 20% returns on your money for 2 years. And then there was supposed to be a return of capital after 2 years and a balloon payment of 40%.
Ryan Daniel Moran has a net worth of $8 million and knew Tai personally.
Someone that I knew and liked had kind of used me.
But strangely, there are also people coming to his defense.
He was doing his best. His strategy was very fascinating. It was interesting. Looking at it now in hindsight, he got it over his head and he didn't have the team and the things in place to be able to manage it.
The bottom line is that if all of these allegations are true, he could be in serious trouble, and his investors may never see their money again. He's learning who his true friends are, but he's also learning the downside to his own advice. Sometimes when you chase a philosophy of not everybody wins, you end up with a situation where nobody does. Most people were first introduced to Tai Lopez in 2015 through this now infamous YouTube ad.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge. In fact, I'm a lot more proud of these 7 new bookshelves that I had to get installed to hold 2,000 new books that I bought. It's like the billionaire Warren Buffett says, the more you learn, the more you earn.
Or you may have seen the countless parody videos that came afterward.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here.
It's fun to drive, but I don't focus solely on materialistic things. Man, he's bursting on my car, man.
Financial gurus usually have an inspiring backstory, and Tai Lopez was no exception, with a very interesting life lived.
Tai Lopez was raised by a single mother and grandmother out in California. He was eager to learn the keys to a great life and dropped out of college in hopes of finding them. But after years of helping in a leper colony, working on farms, and living with the Amish, Tai came home to America broke and he had to move back in with mom.
He also had an underdog story where he found a successful businessman in a phone book, put on his best suit, called to his door, and offered to work for him for free.
Believe it or not, that move, it actually worked, and Tai had found himself his first mentor. He became a certified financial planner and worked at GE Capital in wealth management for 2 years. Then in 2003, he left to form his own company, LLG Financial, and went on to invest in several dating sites.
How can you be better with women? Guys always ask me this question.
So clearly the guy was making bank. He decided to settle in the Hollywood Hills, and he continued to invest and advise multi-million-dollar businesses.
Like many successful businessmen, he decided to branch out into public speaking and share his knowledge with the rest of the world. He also had a deep love of books and started his own book club. And his business background looks to be relatively true. It adds up, but with some important details missing. As you'll see throughout this video, Tai is not simply a quote-unquote scammer or a straight-up liar, but someone who's highly skilled in bending the truth a little bit. Perhaps you could consider it marketing, leaving out important details, things like that. For instance, let's take a deeper look into the dating websites that made him so successful in the first place. Tai was not behind any of the dating apps that we all know, like Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, but he was involved with a company called Elite Global Dating. And here's another parody of Tai, which breaks down what allegedly happened on these dating platforms.
Step 1. Start a fake dating site and a company to go along with it. How about Elite Global Dating LLC? Step 2, you get robots to send fake messages to people on your dating site. Use one-line, general statements that can apply to anybody. You let them see that they have messages, but you don't let them read the messages until they purchase one of your products. The point is, You want to get their credit card information.
And the customer reviews of these sites are pretty shocking.
I bought an information product from this company and did not sign up to become a member. After checking my Visa statement, I noticed that they had charged me over $200 for a monthly membership fee that I had not authorized. I have contacted my bank and they have canceled that Visa card. Beware to anyone who has dealings with Elite Global Dating.
Now, granted, every platform or every dating platform that creates a service like this, they start off doing the same thing. And there are a lot of things about Tai that when you scratch beneath the surface, you'll find some problem. One of his biggest claims was that he read a book a day. And this sounds impressive, and it sounded great for the TEDx speaking event that he did that went viral. And it's a great marketing message, but the reality is that at best, he's spending 30 to 40 minutes skim reading.
Pass 3 times. One time really fast, table of contents, book cover, maybe the first chapter. Second time, you're skimming, trying to get the main pieces that you're going to come back to. And the third time, you read it selectively.
And this kind of claim that he reads a book a day painted him as an obvious con man to some people, and to some people they saw it as a marketing angle for extracting the most important information from a book, and also using the fact that he read a book as an impressive, almost impossible feat to get people to come in and listen to the speech. But this doesn't explain everything. In fact, there are other sides to him where if you scratch beneath the surface, he looks very impressive. For every person that laughed at his YouTube ad, there was another person that was intrigued. These people checked out his YouTube channel and were pitched his course on the 67 steps.
So 67 steps was simple. There was a stat that I read. They used to say it takes the average human 28 days to change bad habits, right? Like alcoholic. But new science came out. University of London came out. And it takes about 66 days for the average person to change anything. So I was like, I told my cousin Maya, I'm like, I'm going to launch the 66 steps. She's like, this is America. That sounds too much like 666, the devil. So I'm like, I'm going to add one more for good luck. So that's where the 60s, the power one more. So all I said was, it was a simple theme. I was like, I'll teach you for $1 a video what my millionaire mentors changed. What changed my life was finding 5 millionaire mentors.
It wasn't an expensive course, and it was only $67. And for a lot of people, it was worth the money.
So I believe it's worth paying $67 for someone to just summarize all the knowledge from thousands of books he read and put it in a few modules. Because if you were to spend time reading those books, if your time, if you were charging $1 per hour, would be worth over $1,000 if you read all those books. So I just believe that it's worth paying someone $67 to summarize all that knowledge for you and have you deliver in video.
Ultimately, there was a consensus that Tai was good at distilling information.
But it is a good program and you will learn a lot of things. There's a couple times that I was like, and I felt a little bit more enlightened. So, and I don't think I would have ever gotten that information without reading, 1,000 books.
This course allowed his business to grow even further. Tai has claimed that he would spend $50,000 on ads and make $120,000 back on the same day. Of course, the 67 steps did not receive glowing reviews all around, but Tai was clearly providing a service that certain people found useful. So throughout the 2010s, Tai was many things to many people. For some, he was an inspiring speaker. For some, he was an inspiring entrepreneur. For others, he was the here in my garage guy. For others, they just thought he was a scammer. But there are people who viewed him in a more complicated manner. Even if you did think Tai was selling false promises, you could equally agree that he was a marketing genius. Or as one Forbes article explained, Tai Lopez is an expert at convincing people he's an expert. And Tai Lopez was whoever you wanted him to be. But what really showed his true colors and when the cracks started to appear was during a now defining business venture, an ambitious one that he set up in 2019. In November of that year, Tai and his friend Alex Murr founded Retail E-Commerce Ventures, or REV. The business model was actually quite compelling. In every U.S. city, there are much-loved retail stores that haven't kept up with the times. Retail E-Commerce Ventures sought to buy these companies and transition them into e-commerce companies. And this was where they sought investment from Ryan Daniel Moran. In a breakdown on his channel, he would explain,
So in 2019, Tai and his partner Alex had the opportunity to buy Dress Barn, which was a multi-decade established brand that had hundreds of thousands of customers. And they were going bankrupt. And they had the opportunity to buy that entire business for $5 million. And the thing that stood out to me was when I was on the phone with his partner, Alex, and he said, Ryan, these people can't even send an email without it being this crazy bureaucratic process. We're going to clear all that out and we're going to start talking to our customers again.
Ryan knew Tai personally and asked him a very direct question.
And I asked Tai while I was thinking about investing in the deal, I said, would you stake your reputation on this deal? And his answer was,
so Ryan invested $500,000.
And the reason I did that was because the terms were really favorable. Basically what they offered me was 20% interest on my money, and that my principal, my $500,000, would be returned to me after 1 year. I also got an equity kicker. That meant that I got a small amount of equity. So if the business performed really well, I could participate in that upside.
Speaking to CoffeeZilla, Jared Goetz had a similar but slightly different deal.
I mean, the deal was great. It was 20% returns on your money for 2 years. And then there was supposed to be a return of capital after 2 years and a balloon payment of 40% paid with your principal returned.
So a lot of people watching might think that these terms are too good to be true and they only have themselves to blame. The reality is that they started making lots of money.
For the first year, turned out to be a really good investment. My interest payments arrived on time. The business was growing. They were sending emails to the customer list. They turned over the business in record time. I've never seen anything like this. They took a bureaucratic, bloated company and they made it a lean e-commerce startup in a matter of months. It was actually really impressive what they did.
And, and they were paying back, monthly interest payments and things were going really well.
Rev soon invested in even more brick and mortar retail companies like Pier 1 and others, but then they began to diversify.
In addition to raising capital for Dress Barn and Pier 1 and these other businesses, Tai and the operational team started some other projects. And these other projects were tech plays.
The company invested in Bulldozer, which is a competitor to Slack, and Speakeasy, which is a competitor of Clubhouse. This was during the boom of different tech companies like in 2020, 2021 during the COVID era. Then there was another deal that came completely out of the blue.
And Radio Shack was probably the most known brand of anything that they had bought. And within a couple of weeks of them buying Radio Shack was one of the top trending topics on Twitter. And it was because you may remember this. There was like some very bizarre tweeting happening from the Radio Shack account. It was vulgar and crass and rude, and it just got so much attention. And I was like, I don't think this is such a good idea.
From the outside, it looked like things had gone horribly wrong. For Tai Lopez, this was all part of the plan.
I reached out to Tai and I was like, is everything okay over here? And he's like, dude, we're the number 3 trending topic on Twitter. This is amazing. And I was like, okay, maybe this guy's a genius. Like maybe this is actually just a really smart play.
Jared Goetz seemed to be a passive investor where he just gave them a lump sum of money and left them to their own devices. Ryan Daniel Moran, meanwhile, wanted to know more about the businesses, particularly when they purchased bodybuilding.com. In fact, he was so excited about this acquisition that he invested another $500,000.
Now, this was a brand, a business that I wanted to be involved in. I said, introduce me to the CEO of bodybuilding.com. I want to help. Get me involved. Like I was really excited to be a part of such a big acquisition. And no one ever called. No one ever reached out. Multiple times I asked, hey, who's the CEO? Who's running the business? And I never got a clear answer.
And at an investor meetup in Puerto Rico, neither the CEO of Dress Barn nor the CEO of bodybuilding.com were present.
But the last mastermind that I went to was in Puerto Rico. And at this meetup, there were fewer CEOs there. The CEO that was running Dress Barn was nowhere to be seen, and no one really had a good answer for what had happened. There was no CEO for bodybuilding.com. And it looked like Tai's friends and relatives were running most of the businesses. It was just weird.
But clearly, Tai and his company were able to persuade their investors that things were still running smoothly. And here's where Ryan admittedly said it didn't look too great. He invested even more money.
So I was invited to go meet the executive team of Tuesday Morning and to walk the flagship store of this company and hear about the vision of the turnaround. Tuesday Morning was facing some financial challenges, and Rev was being brought in as the potential financial partner that could help Tuesday Morning get back on track. And the vision that they cast was actually quite compelling. Basically, we have 500 retail stores across the country. So let's do a pop-up Pier 1 location in these Tuesday Morning shops. Let's do a bodybuilding.com feature over here. Let's do a Modell's Sporting Goods in this corner of Tuesday Morning. We could keep the spirit that was Tuesday Morning and had this loyal fan base, but we could bring in all of these other shopping opportunities into the store.
This led to a further investment of $500,000, bringing his total stake to $1.5 million. And it was around this moment that the cracks started to form.
Tuesday Morning may not be saying Wednesday morning because they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The retailer is looking to shutter more than 200 of its almost 700 stores across the country.
Eventually, the regular payments were not so regular.
Right around the time the principal was due, Maya reached out and she was like, hey, is it cool if we postpone your payment for like 2 weeks? We're just getting things in order. And, they sent a test wire and I got the test wire and they said, okay, cool, we sent your wire. And, a day goes by, I didn't get it. 2 days go by, I didn't get it. 3 days, didn't get it. Hey, Maya, I didn't get the wire. Cool, let me look into it for you. Let me figure out what's going on. About a week later, hey, sorry, Jared, there was an issue with the bank. We're going to have to try this again. Let me know if you got this other test wire. So next day I get another like $50 wire. Yeah, got it. No problem. Great. All right, cool. I'm going to send the rest of it. Of course, I don't get the wire. I don't hear from them for a few days. And then they said they sent the wire again and I didn't get it.
All I know is that people stopped answering texts, stopped answering phone calls. The regular investor meetings just stopped happening. I had recorded a podcast with Tai Lopez talking about Rev and what they were doing and going in this direction. And I never aired it because between the time that we recorded and the time that it was supposed to be published, things just went dark.
And the founder of several dating websites was engaging in behavior that commonly occurs on them.
And then I started getting ghosted. And that's when I was like, and to be honest, I'm not the type of person that like, I get it. In investing, you sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But when there's lies and deception and complete and utter disrespect, that's where things start to get hairy.
What seemed to have happened is around this time, the feds got involved.
It has been told to me that during this time, some federal agency got involved and they started investigating. I don't know for sure that that's true or that's what happened. If it is what happened, then it explains a lot. Because now if the federal government is involved, you can't continue to raise capital. And if you can't continue to raise capital, then you can't continue to fund Bulldozer, the Slack competitor, which is losing a ton of money. You can't continue to pay a big team of developers. You can't continue to order inventory. I mean, it's gonna be hard if you don't have capital, especially when you're still paying out these big interest payments to all these investors like myself. But you should have said something.
So Jared and Ryan deserve credit for sharing this story, as many victims are usually too proud to admit to having lost money. The reality is that these are the same tricks being used on ordinary people with their life savings and retirement funds. And ultimately, Tai Lopez doesn't come across very well from the stories that we're hearing on the side of these guys. But could there be more to it than just simply a scam? Because Tai Lopez had plenty of money. But this seemed like he was ambitious with his skills and thought that he could make the play to go from being perhaps a high 8-figure earner, maybe low 9-figure earner, to a billionaire. Well, here's what we know so far.
The government alleges from October 2021 to October 2022, Rev and his brands incurred monthly net losses ranging from $3.8 million to $12 million. While some of the companies generated revenue, not a single one turned a profit. Things got so desperate that Radio Shack, the home of ham radio nerds and high school AV geeks, suddenly morphed into a cryptocurrency platform with a bizarrely offensive Twitter presence. But worse, apparently Lopez and Mayer continued to report to investors that companies like Dress Barn and Steinmart were, quote, on fire and, quote, the cash flow is strong.
It's alleged that Tai was running what's known as a Ponzi scheme.
Now, as you probably know, a Ponzi scheme is a type of investment fraud where investors are promised artificially high rates of return with little or no risk. And the early investors and the perpetrators of the fraud are paid off with funds by later investors. Early investors are made to think, though, that the payoffs are coming from legitimate business revenue. But the thing about Ponzi schemes is that they have to grow continuously or they'll fail immediately. Otherwise, payments to early investors will stop, those investors will catch on, and the entire scheme will fall apart.
And details also emerged about Maya Birkenhead, the very woman who had trouble sending money to Jared.
And the website indicated that she had, quote, over 10 years of experience managing multi-million-dollar companies. This, though, was not true. Before working as Rev's president and COO, Birkenroad had worked as a substitute preschool teacher, a promoter at a radio station, and an assistant to her cousin Tai in his online education company.
The thing you need to know is that most Ponzi schemes don't usually start off that way. Instead, they normally come from a place of desperation. So at one point, Tai had to have found himself at a crossroads.
Okay, at that moment in time where Tai was made aware that the business was not profitable, guess what he did? Instead of going to investors and saying, hey, things aren't going well, we're going to stop raising money, we're going to try and make this business turn around, because he's the business expert, right? Him and Alex Mayer, very successful. No, instead of doing that, the ethical way of doing it, at that point of no return, he went to the unethical side, which is let's go raise more money and keep promising 20% returns. The big issue is Tai did not tell the new investors that the businesses were not profitable. That is how it becomes a Ponzi scheme, and it is completely in their control.
So far, the SEC has only brought forward civil charges and not criminal. The most charitable conclusion is that Tai, Alex, and Maya were desperately trying to dig themselves out of a hole and needed to lie until their business was back on track. They probably thought, listen, we just need another round of investment to inject some more capital into the businesses and make sure that they can keep running, and then we can turn them profitable and be able to pay everyone out. However, this doesn't really add up either.
The defendants improperly commingled investor funds to perpetuate the illusion that they were huge financial successes. How much, Spencer? How much were they taking? $16.1 million for themselves. I think this argument, this complaint changes a little bit if the defendants never take any money from themselves. If they don't enrich themselves, they never take money for personal use, they never commingle funds. I think that changes the argument a little bit, and I think the punishment is less severe.
And you could argue that Tai got off lightly. Another YouTuber, Spencer Cornelia, argued that this behavior should have led to criminal charges.
They know that the business is cash flow negative, and they still promote that it's going well. They lie to investors, and they still raise money. That is where, in my eyes, the DOJ should step in and turn this into a criminal complaint.
But surprisingly, Tai had his defenders. So before we completely condemn the guy, let's hear what his supporters have to say. The biggest defense came from the Patrick Bet David podcast, where it was pointed out that these are still merely charges.
I hope this is not true. Now, a lot of people are going to probably do content about this. There's going to be a rush to judgment. Let's just remember, in America, you're innocent until proven guilty. He'll have his day apparently in court. But I hope, for Tai's sake, that he wouldn't do something like this.
Then there was a much less convincing argument from Brad Lea.
Second of all, dude, you screw up. Like, what is he supposed to do? Like, we're grown men, people. You buy into somebody's shit, dude. Do your due diligence and take responsibility for it. Like, what if it had made billions?
Yeah,
then what?
So obviously, all investments come with some form of risk, but you would assume that the person you are investing with is not breaking the law. Russell Brunson is another person from the finance world that has come to Tai's defense.
He was doing his best. His strategy was very fascinating. It was interesting. Looking at it now in hindsight, he got in over his head and he didn't have the team and the things in place to be able to manage it. Imagine someone's giving you hundreds of millions of dollars to do this thing and the execution isn't working. I can't imagine the sleepless nights, the stress, the anxiety for him, the guilt for investors, like all those kind of things. And I just want to be the person who's not casting stones. Tai, I'm rooting for you, praying for you, and I hope that you're able to get through this. And for the investors, I feel the same way.
But Tai's recent posts on social media suggest that some friends have not come to his defense. On TikTok, he posted,
"The ones you help the most will often be the first to turn against you, even without hearing your side of the story. That's normal, to be expected.
And he also seems to be quietly building up a conspiratorial angle to his story. Without directly mentioning what happened, he said,
And make no mistake, we live in a world where you're trying to be controlled, both maliciously by people and indirectly. There's groups of people that are trying to control you that don't necessarily wake up in the morning and say they want to ruin your life, but the structure of the system is built to control you.
And there are other examples of him sowing these seeds of doubt.
This trophy hunting, it's unfair that people, like for example, Elon Musk has had a run-in with the SEC.
Yeah,
he had
huge.
a big one. And he says, I saw a recent article where Elon said, if I knew what I knew now, I would not have settled. He took a settle. He settled and had to pay a fine, had to step down from being the, board on the board of directors of Tesla. And it happened again. He's got a thing now.
Yep.
And he just said, I'm not going to. I saw the SEC, he wouldn't come on the interviews. He's like, I'm done. You've asked me enough questions. And it's clearly a trophy hunting case.
And Tai was not just talking to anyone in this conversation. He was speaking to a guy named Trevor Milton. In 2022, Milton was found guilty of securities and wire fraud and sentenced to 4 years in prison. However, a month before the 2024 presidential election, he donated over $1.8 million to Donald Trump's presidential campaign. And lo and behold, in March 2025, he received a presidential pardon. But this conversation all fed into Tai's new victim status.
I've never met you before. I've never met him. Never once ever spoken to you until today, until I got invited on. It's amazing that so many people have had to come to that same realization mentally. What a special thing. Like everyone had to go through their battle.
Yes.
I honestly thought it was something unique to what I went through. And now I'm hearing it's coming from you and him and others. Like, well, it actually makes me feel better about my situation, knowing I'm not crazy.
Yeah. This universe took, but it can also just give back. Donald Trump calls you. It's over. You're pardoned.
Dude, it is wild.
You can almost see Tai hoping for that call himself. Now,
but since then, Tai's YouTube channel has disappeared, and there's been a lot of speculation on exactly why.
Can you smell that? That smells like spoliation of evidence.
But if Tai had intentionally deleted his YouTube to remove evidence, then he would have also removed his Spotify, which is basically the audio equivalent of his YouTube channel. So this must have been YouTube, who despite the potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in ad payments that they made from Tai Lopez running ads on their site, are putting their foot down.
Him getting his channel deleted is what he deserves, and it finally came to him. I know it took a long time, but these grifters really got to stop doing what they're doing.
YouTube is a platform which brands itself as educational, and having one of its biggest gurus being currently under investigation is not a good look. In particular, YouTube has been going through a ban wave as of late, with many people getting thrown under the bus for false claims. So there's been a ban wave, and even legitimate YouTubers that don't even really sell something too promising, some that don't sell anything at all, have been caught up in bans and have had to go through extreme lengths to even have an attempt at recovering their accounts. Interestingly, Tai is still on Facebook and Instagram, but has suspiciously turned off his Facebook ads since September that he had been running actively. This could mean several things. Meta may have blocked him from ad use. Tai might simply be stepping back from the spotlight. He probably can't afford to run the ads right now and would rather spend the capital on his defense. Or perhaps, most concerning for him, the ads just weren't converting into sales, but this is unlikely considering the team that he's had and the experience that he's had in this industry. Tai thrived on the fact that you never knew exactly how he made his money, and he could always be a bit liberal with the objective full truth, but this new court case, if true, is anything but ambiguous. The bigger problem lies with how we evaluate certain online gurus. Ryan and Jared also talk about entrepreneurship on YouTube, but they'll never reach Tai Lopez levels of fame. And if Tai Lopez was ever scammed, it's hard to imagine him admitting to it publicly. We tend to reward those who sell optimism and big dreams, but maybe it's time we start valuing the voices that offer some real honesty as well.